From the beautiful Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, this is the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. We take questions from anyone in the dental profession and discuss what it takes to win not only in dentistry, but in life. Business, leadership, relationships, parenting, health and wellness, money management, nothing is off limits on the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. I'm Jason Tanoory, your host, and have over 20 years of experience to pull from. Learn from my mistakes and let me help you collapse time so you can become the best version of yourself. Welcome back, Dr. Jason here, Dental Lighthouse Podcast. Super excited about my guest today, and I'm excited for a couple of reasons. Let me unpack the reasons I'm excited for my guest today. One is because he's flat out awesome. We met each other in dental school back at Penn, back in Center City, back in West Philly. Two, because I was just honored and blessed to be a speaker at his Dental Nachos Boost event a couple of weeks ago, and I was able to connect with him in person, which is rare nowadays to be able to connect with people in person. And he will probably mention sometime in this interview how it's even more rare to actually pick up the phone and call instead of text. And then a third, because when we were brainstorming how we wanted to connect, he said, why don't I interview you on your podcast, which is a little unique and a little odd, but isn't Dr. Paul Goodman a little unique and a little odd as well? So, hey, Dr. Paul Goodman, welcome to the show.
Thanks. My grandmother, Bob, was right. I am special. So, I'm so thrilled to be chatting with you. So many things. I use your unpack phrase all the time. I also like to lead with gratitude. And I do want to share, Jason, for your listeners. You give so much awesome advice and mentorship. But one thing recently that you did was you recommended the book, The Hard Hat, and read it to your kids, and about being a good teammate. And I love sports. So I really want to thank you for that recommendation and inspiring me to read old school to my kids. Is that something you do regularly, or do you guys pick books as a family, or how did that fit into what you're parenting?
Yeah. So back in the day, it's what we did all the time. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, my youngest are now 14 years old. So I don't get the opportunity to have them cuddle up with me and read them books anymore. But we do other things together. Usually they want me to sit down and watch a Mr. Beast YouTube video with them, or Dude Perfect or something. But yeah, Hard Hat's a great one. As you have probably heard me say before, I love John Gordon books. Hard Hat's my second favorite John Gordon book. My favorite John Gordon book is The Carpenter. So if you've never read The Carpenter, I would totally check it out. Such a good book. In fact, I just recommended it to a coaching client who was asking about a book that she could unpack during her quarterly meeting with her team. And she just sent me a text earlier this week saying how much she loved it and how much it's resonating with her team. So really, really good book. Very easy to unpack. It's 100 pages. You could read it in a 3-hour afternoon if you really wanted to, but a great book for teams, great book for kids. Just all of this stuff is really good.
I think it's great. It's just like a consistent thing. I'm a big sports fan. I also want to ask you so many things, but like you've mentioned, you've coached your children in sports. You still do, right? And sometimes you're the parent, and it's nuanced because, like, how do you get your child to listen to you with coaching versus when you're coaching other kids? And I think it's the same thing with dental practice ownership at times. You bring a coach in and they say, man, this coach is so brilliant. You want to shout out. I've been saying that for the past 6 months. Keep your elbow up when you shoot, but you have to hold it inside. So I think when you can use these, what do you call it? Like third party things, right? We're reading The Hard Hat together. See, this person is saying this stuff about teammates. And I think it really, really sinks in. It's just a reminder that I say this to people when I talk to them about like coaching their associates, and they're like, well, why doesn't my associate listen to me? I go, well, because it's that face you're using. You're using that face when you tell them, right? And that's the face. So I think that is, I was thinking the next thing I kind of wanted to ask you about is you came to the Super Dentist Boost, and my theme is kind of like behind the scenes stuff, right? And one of the speakers there said, Paul, I didn't know you had all this stuff going on with Dental Nachos. I didn't know how you had all these people. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised, because I think people think my whole company is me running around with a cell phone taking videos at a park. And, you came, and I just want to ask, as a friend and actually as a speaker, what was some of your like thoughts or feedback on like the Dental Nachos Dentist Job Connect operation? Was it bigger than you thought, more people than you thought?
Yes and yes. I mean, it was definitely bigger than I thought. It was more people than I thought. But I guess to be honest with you, when you really unpack everything that you do, all the services you provide, all the connections that you make, to your point, it's way beyond you
Yeah.
in Rittenhouse Square, on a cell phone. And everyone that I got exposed to on your team, I probably got exposed to maybe five or six people on a pretty frequent basis. They were all amazing. They were all super helpful, super knowledgeable, and I could tell that they were really passionate about the work that you guys are doing. So it's great. And as you know, I've recommended Dentist Job Connect to a number of my coaching clients, and they've been really happy.
Thanks.
There's a ton of value there, and you could tell that you guys are really trying to make the connections and just line up owners with prospective associates.
I appreciate it. And I share that not, just to search for a compliment, but also to share like you need a lot of people on your side to make these dreams come true. And it's hard work. And they're without a team who can do that. And Unreasonable Hospitality was the book we read to prepare for everything for Boost Camp. It's, so much preparation for this 3-day event. And I create an event that I wish I had as a speaker, right? And I get to go to many events, and it's not to say anything. I don't want to say critical, but sometimes I show up and they're like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I think I'm the guy in that flyer who's supposed to speak. Like, is there an AV person here?" And then I'm doing the work, right? Sebastian Maniscalco
Yeah,
has a great joke. Like, how did these places make us check out our own stuff, right? You go to CVS and I work. So, like, I mean, I've been in situations where I've been in a place where I'm like, they're just not prepared for me at all, and it really creates a
yeah,
lot of stress because the audience is there, and they're like,
right.
"The person didn't show up." So I really appreciate that. And I think that, I was sharing with you that like I've created it in a way where it's like, we're both Seinfeld fans and these filmed in front of a live studio audience where we have 50, 60, 70 people in the crowd. But I really want them to, when the speakers get off stage, get to know you. And you are fantastic with communicating with the people there. And I think that you also get to see other speakers. I took that from Mark Costas. I loved when I went to the first Dental Success Summit when I was a speaker. I never actually sat in the audience and got a chance to hear other people speak. And I don't know, how was that for you as a speaker? I know some of them were people that but you also got exposed to some people that you might not have seen before. Was that?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And to your point, Mark and Summer and Jake, I've heard them a ton. But at the same time, you can hear that message over and over again. It's like reading a book multiple times,
Yeah.
right? Like you're a different person every time you read it. So even hearing their messages repetitively is ultimately making me a better person. But there were so many people there that, I mean, to be honest with you, and I apologize for my ignorance, that I had never heard of. And my expectations were low, mainly because I've never heard of them. That's my ego speaking. And I was blown away by
Yeah.
the content and by the value that they were able to provide. And it just kind of opened up my eyes to be like, wow, there's a lot of really, really intelligent people out there, and I need to expose myself to more of them.
I mean, I appreciate it. I kind of think of myself as like I love comedy more than music. So it's like hear about a comedian you never heard of before. The person, Dr. Sebu Adikula, who spoke before you, is this, amazingly humble, talented surgical prosthodontist who teaches at the Manhattan VA, speaks, helps residents, and can be someone that you can be connected with to teach your associates. And I just really, that's important to me to give a voice, literally and figuratively, people who don't always get a chance to speak at some of these events and,
Right.
meet some people who like, I just think speaking has transformed too. Been doing it for a long time. It's like, it's not just always standing up in front of 800 people at like a dental conference. It's like, I think it's very cool how these small group learning opportunities have become more and more popular in dentistry. Because I think, it's interesting, and I don't know how you feel, and we can be all vulnerable. Like I'll go to the Dental Success Summit and you'll be speaking, and I'm like, I'm going to listen to Jason. 15 minutes in, I'm checking my phone, but I'm not playing Candy Crush. It's because something has happened, right? Where like it's hard. So I think it's like hard to pay attention to a speaker for 8 hours anymore, right? Like
No, no question. Yeah.
45-minute segments because I'm like, look, Mark's up there. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pay attention. But like I think some of these like old school ways where you're like, this speaker's gonna do 8 full hours, there's just limits to our attention span in versus 20 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And I think too, and I haven't taken a ton of clinical CE in a long time, but I remember at least when we got out of school, it was the classic, like they would show this one case from like a million different photography angles,
Yeah.
and because you were not able to come close to achieving that result,
Yeah.
you were like a failure. Like, I will never do a ceramic crown on a front tooth ever
Yeah.
again. Because, and then so you get exposed to that, and I think you and I and a lot of the speakers that were at Boost were kind of like the opposite, right? Like, we're just like, okay, these are my mistakes, these are my
Yeah.
failures,
Yeah.
this is what I've learned, which was completely opposite than CE like 15 years ago,
Yes.
just showing that matching central, um, it would never mind that leaving out the fact that this was the 50th try-in.
Yes,
You know,
I give Dr. I don't know if you remember Alex Show from Penn, but he's a talented periodontist, so I spoke with many times. And we used to be out speaking here. He's like, they don't tell you that took $20,000 worth of stuff they didn't charge the patient for. They didn't tell you they did this. So I think it's like, just go to see for practical, actionable stuff. Learn from
right,
stuff that made people cry inside, right? I've said, this has made me cry inside. Try not to do this. And I think that,
right.
it's just made it more violent. So now I want to ask you, like, so I asked about the behind the scenes operations of what I shared about what I do. Tell us a little bit about your behind the scenes. People say, "Oh, you're friends with Jason Tanoory. He has all these practices. He's doing push-ups. He's walking 10,000 steps a day." I mean, we talk about this out of the operatory, but still part of the practice, right? I've said this before.
Right.
People think I am out of the operatory, okay, but I'm still attached to the practice, different than you are. But like, what's your day to day on a clinical day? Are you checking in with each office? Are you meeting new associates? I know you have a mentorship program. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it really varies day to day. So, for example, today, Monday, is usually a lot of my one-on-one days, right? So I had five or six one-on-ones today, with key people in my organization. I do all the one-on-ones with my doctors. So I had four or five of those today. Plus, I had my hygiene clinical director, met with her. Um, and that was a lot of my day. These one-on-ones are typically 30 to 45 minutes a piece. So it takes up a big portion of my day, and I love it, right? I love still being involved. I love really trying to identify pain points that these people are having, and brainstorming with them ways to solve for those. I've gotten significantly better at, it's probably something that you can relate to, not taking other people's monkeys,
Yeah.
and just really, as they unload them on me, just kind of reframing them and saying, well, have you tried this or have you tried that? So that's what Mondays typically look like for me. And tomorrow is very, very different. Tomorrow will be me sitting in on some leadership meetings, some clinical director meetings, some calibration meetings, and then doing some chairside mentoring with the associates. And I just absolutely love it. It fills up my cup. I do miss clinical dentistry. I just feel, based on what I've defined as my purpose in life, I feel like I can touch many more people
Yeah.
doing what I do now versus, finding MB2 on an upper first molar, or, prepping another DO on 14.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm in a good place, and it may change in the next couple of years. But that, combined with some of the coaching that I do with dentists and operations and office managers across the country, um, just leads me to having a really good week. And at the end of the week, when I'm kind of reflecting and journaling about it, I feel really, really good about kind of where I'm at this point in my life.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. I want to just drill down, pun intended, because people, I love going to the DSI meetings, and we have hot seats and people talk on stage, say, have more one-on-ones, right? And let's say a dentist is saying, I'm going to go do that, right? But what is like the goal of a one-on-one? You're talking to an associate dentist. I'm just going to say, I think I've shared with you via text this amazing speaking piece, How to Speak by Patrick Winston, has 20 million YouTube views. It's an MIT professor telling college students how to present themselves for a job. It's brilliant. I've watched it start to finish for at least 20 or 30 times. So he says, build a fence around you. So I'm assuming it's not supposed to just be a complaint session. I'm assuming it's not supposed to just be telling them they're the greatest team member that you received. So if we kind of use those boundaries, what are the goals of these one-on-ones, especially with associate dentist?
Yeah, so for me, it all comes back to servant leadership principles, and as my listeners, and I know you kind of heard me talk a little bit about this at Boost, is, there's eight principles to agape love, or to servant leadership, and I really like to double down on the kindness one and the honesty one. So from the kindness perspective, I'm really trying to be an empathetic listener. I'm really trying to understand kind of where they're coming from. I'm trying to give them sincere and specific praise. If they're doing things that are above and beyond, or if they're winning. So it could be from a data component. It could be like, wow, you had a crazy great month from a production perspective. It could be, I've gotten some feedback from some of your chairside assistants, and they just love how you're mentoring them and teaching them how to make better temporary crowns. So I'm not just trying to say, hey, you're doing a great job. I'm trying to be super sincere, super specific, so they know that I'm really sincere about it. And then from the honesty perspective, and this comes with time. This is like a leadership muscle that you have to work out, and you'll eventually get there. But just being brutally honest with them, and in a very empathetic way. I'm not getting on a soapbox and whipping them, but like, if their case acceptance isn't where it needs to be, or if they're not taking enough CE, or if I get feedback from the hygienists that their exams are leave something to be desired. Like, no one else is going to tell them that outside of me. Now, you might have a tenured hygienist that can work up enough courage, or an office manager that can work up enough courage to have that conversation with them, but it's rare. So I'm searching out for that feedback, and then I'm getting it, and then I'm giving it to the associate. And if they hear that feedback and they own it, then we can really make some progress. But if they hear that feedback and they play the victim, and they're like, well, the handoff from the hygienist is
Yeah.
shitty, or well, my office manager never fills my schedule, then I know that, I'm going to have some issues here to unpack with this associate, and they may not be with me very long if they're playing the victim.
And I think that's, I really appreciate you positioning it like that. It helps me, whether it's dental nachos one-on-ones or, dental practice team members one-on-ones, because feedback isn't just about patting people on the back. I think people will say, I really want feedback. Feedback's important to me. I'm like, do you just mean the good feedback, the compliments? Because I think
Right.
that's what you mean when you say that. And I actually just, I'll get texted you. It's just a short thing about how, if I'm going to be your coach, you cannot take everything I give, every piece of criticism, as an attack. And it's a learning process, right? And, I've had team members learn, and then first they, you know, from what they've brought before they've met me, that comes to the table, right? You can't live inside of people's head, but if you can give them feedback that's really focused on them doing better, not feeling better, right? Them doing better, not feeling better. And this is the part where I think, whether it's running a non-dental or dental company, you just don't learn this, by accident. You have to invest in it. You have to practice it. I mean, I don't know if you guys were down at the other end of the table at our fun dinner, but near Mark's end, we hired my wife's friend named Carrie. She worked for Lululemon. She ran 300 employees, multiple stores through a very, very, very difficult pandemic. And she's now left that and done some coaching, and she's coaching us. And I'm learning some things that I have never learned before. And
Yeah.
you have to be open to that if you want your organization to grow and gel. And I think that's, something that dental school, I just wish they talked more about it, Jason, right? Like you should talk about nutrition. You should talk about taking care of your mental health. You should talk about how numbers matter in dental school. And they have not made a lot of progress with teaching dental students that these things are things that are important to your success, even if they don't teach you exactly how to do them.
Yeah, 100%. And when we talk about this on coaching calls, or even during the servant leadership class, the best analogy I can use is parenting, right? So owners are so good at like giving like fake feedback to, say, a dental assistant or an associate doctor, and then leaving out the stuff that really needs to be talked about. And which is fine, because they don't have the courage to, or they haven't yet developed that muscle. But it's like with parenting, right? If you catch your kids stealing, if you catch your kids lying, like, you're not going to ignore it. Like, you're
Right.
going to go have a conversation with them and be like, this is not how we behave. Like, I'm trying to raise you to become a great adult. And great adults, they don't lie, they don't steal, they don't gossip. You do. And it's like, oh, obviously that I'm going to have that conversation with my kid because I love them, right? Well, why can't you practice that way with your employees? Like, and again, I'm not saying you have to love them like the feeling of love, but like, just choose to love on them. Choose to make them as great of a person as they can possibly be. Choose to like help them. And with that comes being honest and
Yeah.
just being sincere. And if you can do it for your kids, because obviously it just makes sense, like why can't you do it for your associate or your hygienist or what have you? And maybe there's this fear like, oh, they don't want to hear. Well, then maybe they're not a right fit for you,
Right.
right? Like,
As you were saying this, it's really so valuable. And I have a trainer come like twice a week, and I'm pretty active. I'm not Jason Tanoory level of fitness. I know you probably don't love if I put you on a pedestal, but I know you've done, bodybuilding, but I've always been active and always worked out and always invest in that. Sometimes done it too much, sometimes injure myself. But even today with a trainer, he was adjusting things in the moment for me. And I've had to learn you got to do more medium feedback as close to the time it happens. I've been guilty of saying, I'm going to talk to the person at the end of the day. I'm going to call them into my office and we're going to have this big conversation about how they seated 3 patients late. And then guess what? It never happened because I chose the path of least resistance, right?
right,
And my trainer does this because he wants me to hurt myself, right? And he
right,
doesn't say, you're the worst 47-year-old I've ever seen here. Well, you got to do it this way. And I think that is so important. And I regret times where I was like, made feedback too big a thing that I never did. And I'm actually learning that a lot
right.
from my current coach, Carrie, because this is what she had to do when she was running multiple stores for Lululemon. I mean, you had to constantly be giving feedback. And I think that part can be very uncomfortable for dentists.
Yeah, I agree. And side note, I actually had the opportunity to speak with Carrie when I was in Philly.
Oh, good. I'm glad he did.
Almost an hour, her and I talked, and
Oh, great.
she's a pearl. She's a keeper. So do whatever you need to do to keep her working with you. Make sure you do. But we use this kind of joke all the time with my clients is, most doctors will not give any feedback, but if they're going to give it, it's at the quote unquote yearly performance review.
Yeah.
And I tell the story of like what if you were a football coach and the only time you believed in giving feedback was at the yearly performance review, or let's say the end of the season. So you sit down in your office and you bring a linebacker in and you're ready to give them all this feedback and you say, yeah, you had a good season, but during game 2 months ago, if you would have played more in the middle of the field, you would have gotten more tackles. And the linebacker's like, thanks a lot, coach. I could have really used that feedback 2 months ago when I was like in the
Yes.
middle of it. Like,
Yeah.
so this mindset of like, oh, I have to make a note to give him this feedback at the quarterly review or at the yearly, or even a monthly. Like some things can wait to the end of the month if you're going to do monthlies one-on-one. But to your point, like if it's a situation, and again, I use the kind of fictitious story of like you're walking down the hallway and you overhear an assistant saying something to a patient that is just not right, not correct. It almost makes you cringe. Or you hear someone at the front desk talking to a patient and you're like, that's not how we do it, or that's not what we say. Like waiting for the monthly one-on-one to address that makes absolutely no sense. Like go into the storm, have a minute meeting. And again, from a position of empathy and curiosity,
Yeah.
we don't go guns blazing, be like, how could you say that? You're not like, what made you say that? Like, were you trained to say that? Like, just be curious, because more likely than not, it was an onboarding or training failure on your part is why they're doing what they're doing. But you got to address it in the moment.
And I love that you're sharing this. My one of my original coaches who spoke at some of my original study clubs outside of dentistry, and this is dating the time because he said when Andy Reid was coach of the Eagles, so we're talking about this, right?
Yep.
He's
Yep.
during the week, they're training, and during Sundays, they're coaching. And those two things are
Right.
very different things. The next thing I kind of want to ask you as someone who runs a big organization, and I'll position myself first in my 2 lives, right? In dental Nachos and Dentist Job Connect, no customers come to see us, Jason. We're just here in sweatshirts at a 16th and Chestnut. There's some real benefits to this, right? No one knocks at
Right.
the door and says, I need you to do my Job Connect ad in the next 5 minutes. So I share with my team, it's very different in dentistry. So we have the luxury of blocking out training time here at Dental, and we're doing this with Carrie, right? And it's a little painful to me. And yes, I'd rather be creating something new, or yes, I'd rather be working and talking and selling, but it's not really uncomfortable, right? And we just talked about this morning. On Wednesdays, we're doing 4-hour blocks, and I don't have to move any hygiene patients, Jason, to do this. But I think dentist is very operationally complex. Whether you're working with a coaching client or like, how do you fit in the training and onboarding when basically dentistry is a live game every day? What do you guys do in your organization?
Yeah. Well, I think our situation's a little different than most, but I can speak to maybe where we were 10 years ago when we had a smaller operation. And you're right. Like you realize that you need training, you realize that you need the time to train, but you can't move Mrs. Jones and you
Right.
can't take away this like super productive time. So you got to schedule it. And even if like, what do they say? The best two times to plant a tree are 25 years ago and today.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we have a realization that like, okay, we need to really start doubling down on training, we just start to schedule. So if it has to be a month out, 2 months out, 3 months out, we just start blocking time. And we continue to add those blocks as we move forward. So now once a month, twice a month, whatever it is, we're going to have dedicated training sessions on things like that. Now, we're blessed to be at a size now from an onboarding and training perspective where we have a universal trainer. So this one person, their only job is to
Awesome.
train and onboard people. And it's been such a blessing for us from a continuity of care perspective. When you have multiple people training multiple people, things get lost in the cracks. But now
Yeah.
that we have one like rock star and she does all of the onboarding in every position. Now, if it's a hygienist, it could be 2 to 3 days of onboarding, and then it gets kind of moved to a lead hygienist. If it's an administrative person, it might be a couple weeks and stuff like that. But that's how we're doing it now. But you're right. It's such a huge pain point if you're in, say, a one location, two doctor, three or four hygienists. It's a busy practice, and you bring on a new treatment coordinator, and you're like, okay, go train her. Well, I was just talking about this morning on a coaching call. Okay, I can train her, but you realize that I'm not going to be able to do my job. Like
Right.
and so all of a sudden I can't like split myself in two and treat, present
Right.
all of this treatment that you want me to present, yet train this person. Like, so which one's more important to you?
Right.
And the doctor's like, just make it happen. What does that even mean? Make it
Yeah.
so it's just
You should have a whole thing.
resetting.
I've said this. You could like, we haven't invented cloning yet. I've used this as a joke, right? Where I'm like, hey guys, we haven't invented it yet, right? And you need to pick where you need me to be. And sometimes I have to do that for them because it happens the other way too, where someone will, because they don't want to train or onboard properly, they want to keep doing, the right word isn't a low level job, maybe a job that they don't need to do anymore. And I could
Right.
see that as just a huge bottleneck to making things better for any organization. I think the universal trainer sounds awesome. And probably, seen you speak and share so many times so authentically. It's probably something you probably wish you put in even sooner than you did. You couldn't have put it in the first day you bought a second practice, but these are things you realize like, man, if I had had this earlier, I would have like, what do you say, had less brain damage, right? Is what you usually say.
No question. Yeah, no question. Yeah, I mean, so many people that didn't work out, and you would say like, I made a bad hire. I mean, the reality is maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but more often than not, it was a failure on my part of setting expectations, of onboarding them properly, of dedicating the time to onboard them properly. I mean, you look at some of these bigger organizations. My daughter, um, graduated from college a couple of years ago, and KPMG, one of these big four consulting firms, gobbled her up. Like her first day, it wasn't like go shadow Sally, and then
Yeah.
you're going to start booking clients in the afternoon. I mean, she had a 60-day onboarding, like
Yeah.
full, like completely off site. It was at this like Universal Center down in Florida, where it was like, I mean, it was just get into the culture, get into the systems. And that's what made me think like, we can't afford to do that, but man, we can definitely be better than how we're currently doing it.
I love that you share that. I mean, I can share this. So I always say growing up, I wanted to be a doctor, dentist, or a lawyer. Clooney from ER, Tom Cruise from A Few Good Men, or a dentist like my dad. And I'm thrilled that, I got to practice with my dad and do this. But what I really, if I was truthful, I actually wanted to be Michael Eisner, who was the CEO of Disney. And when I would go to Disney, I loved everything about it. And I was an 11-year-old kid, and I was like, oh my gosh, the customer service and this. But back in the 90s, it was not popular to say, I want to be an entrepreneur, right? So I
Right.
don't regret doing what I did, but that was really what I wanted to do. And what I was really impressed by, they had like a Disney university, and you would train there before they even let you step foot in the Magic Kingdom. And Carrie and I have been talking about a Dental Nachos university type feel. It's not going to be the exact same thing, because you're right. Because what happens is it doesn't matter if it's a dental office or dental office, like you need a role filled either through growth or because someone left. And you're so impatient, you're like, get in there and start making the donuts, even though no one tells them how to make them. And it's 100% my fault. And you have to pause and figure out that probably dentistry, Jason, and really any business, especially dentistry, it's like let's say your dental assistant retires and it's a happy moment and they're finished with dentistry, but for whatever reason, you just can't find the new fit. And then you find the new fit and everyone's been trying to cover for this one missing team member. It takes a lot of patience to be like, no, they still can't just get thrown into this fire. I've been on both sides of that. I'm usually the side of pushing them in too quickly. And I should know better. I was a restaurant server and it's nice that I was always the one they wanted. They always shadowed me, right? When I worked there, because I was very systematic and into customer service. And not once did we ever hire a server in a nice restaurant and just say like, oh, go wait on this table, however you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go get them.
And that's why even, to kind of deepen this, like I think associate dentists, you have this amazing mentorship program, you assist them and do it. Like from the Dentist Job Connect world, I hear, it seems associate dentists are often trained the worst out of all positions when they have the most important position with how the patient feels about the office, right? And that part needs to be fixed for dentists on both sides. But I think it's because there's an emotional component to training another dentist that's not there with the other team members. It's a stomach feeling. You got to you think you're telling someone. I think it's either very dramatic on either side, right? Where the dentist either like, can you let me know when you've removed the second dental tubule? I'll come in, right? Or it's like, yeah, you'll be fine, right? And there's got to be, and that's why I really compliment on what you do with assisting, helping. I wish there was more of that out there for the dentist. That's the biggest Dentist Job Connect pain point. The thrown into an office and also asked to do things that have nothing to do with clinical dentistry. My assumption to ask you is you like to get your associate dentist only focusing on dentistry, not on billing, not on outside the operatory things.
For sure. So yeah, just a ton of wisdom that you just unpacked there. And there's a lot to talk about. So a couple of things. I think one of the main reasons it's a pain point is we as dentists were never trained to onboard or mentor anyone, much less dentists, right? So, if we hire another hygienist or another assistant, I mean, how many of us dentists are really responsible for training that person? Very, very few. We find someone else in the office that's like, yeah, can you just train Mary? Like, just get her up to speed, right? So then when there's really no one else, there's obviously no one else in the office qualified to onboard this associate outside of the owner dentist or a dentist. So now you kind of have this like, I have to do this, and you suck at it because you've never done it. Maybe you don't even want to do it. So I agree. I think if founder dentists, owner dentists, lead dentists can embrace the mentorship part of new associates, it just is going to create a windfall of blessings for everyone. But that being said, even if they truly don't want to do it, you and I both know that there's people out there that could shorten this learning curve. Our mutual friend, Link Harris, is one. Aaron Nichols is one. Sure. There's people out there that if you truly wanted to outsource, like almost like you're outsourcing insurance verification, I want to outsource the clinical mentorship of my associate. It's not ideal, but if you truly are not going to do it, then utilize one of these other services that will be significantly better than you not doing anything at all.
I'm with you. I mean, Aaron's program, he's a sponsor. Nachos. He did my two associates and did a amazing job with his own clinical associate accelerator. And most of it had to do how they thought their way around the office, right? Which is it's not easy to fix, but it's not complicated to fix. Like, how do you get out of a hygiene exam? Things that were really the things that were causing Jeff and I the most amount of stress. And then Link, when people are ready to add the hands-on piece. And I agree with you. And it's a both thing, right? And it's, one of the reasons where I think that associates dentists don't realize this in most operations, the owner dentist is also seeing their own patients, right? So it's like, when someone's like, I want some mentorship. If I can't get the impression coping in properly, I go, well, that's okay if it's a couple times, but you can't have a dental school instructor standing over your shoulder because they have their own patients in that operatory. Well, I only want to ask you one more thing, Jason. I want to be respectful of your time, but it's going to be a funny Seinfeld thing, because in Seinfeld, she didn't want to see the English patient. Nothing goes too long. English patient was too long. I remember the episode. Elaine did not want to see it. So I want to wrap up on this, which I was really been excited to ask you about more. So I know you do coaching of dentists one-on-one. I know you do group coaching. One of our mutual friends is working with you. I just want to ask about this one thing, CEO time. because even my own brother, Jeff Goodman, who I care about so much, talks about I need more CEO time, right? And I kind of think of this like, I don't know if you remember when George was working on the Penske file, they hired him. No, they hired the guy who hired him wasn't there. So he showed up for the job and he said, "Oh, no, I got hired." And they gave him the Penske file and he kind of just looked at it all day, right? Because you know what, dude,
Right, right.
I feel that even if you're a dentist who wants to go from 5 days to 4 days and 1 day of CEO time, 4 days to 2 days of CEO time, tell us what this actually means. You know, you're talking to, I'm your client. I say, you know what? These people talk about CEO time. I want to take a full day off of clinical dentistry. I'll do the things I need. I got an associate dentist, but now I have my free Thursday and I don't want to treat it like the Penske file. What can dentists use with this CEO time to make their life
Yeah.
better,
The
practice better, family better? Tell us about CEO time as the last.
the ambiguous CEO time, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny. We have our group coaching session every Friday, and this was a hot topic this past Friday. So it's fresh on my mind. So everyone's gonna have different things. I break up CEO time into two categories, what I would call deep work and what I would call shallow work. And without going down a rabbit hole, deep work is, for lack of a better description, lock yourself in a room, turn off your phone, turn off all the temptations of Facebook and Instagram and what have you, and just get work done that you cannot be disturbed at. Now, so what do I mean by that? It could be overhauling, it could be creating a system or overhauling a system. It could be looking at weekly scorecards. It could be looking at P&Ls. And in that time, I always am coaching people to develop questions to ask. So if we're looking at a weekly scorecard, if we're looking at a P&L, and you have an idea of what the goal is, if it's at the goal, then high fives all around, kick ass. But if it's not, don't just get pissed, start asking questions like, let's use dental supply bill, right? So you want your dental supply bill to be, let's say, 5% of revenue. And for the year to date, it's at 6.5. Well, why is that? So I'm just having the dentist or the owner come up with a series of questions when they're reviewing scorecards, when they're reviewing P&Ls, to either ask to their leadership team or to their team, or is there a system flaw somewhere? Is there an inventory issue in regards to dental supplies? So that's what I'm doing during deep work time. During shallow work time is non-clinical time that's relationship based. So it could be a one-on-one, it could be in a meeting, it could be meeting with a banker, it could be meeting with prospective associate doctors, it could be meeting with your own associates from a mentorship or treatment planning perspective. But I've said this to a number of people, and it's one of those things where you kind of almost, to kind of come full circle on this conversation. You know how you've repeated yourself like literally 20 times, and you're right, but the other person wasn't either ready to hear it or
Yeah.
ready to like put it into action. When you lock yourself in a room and when you turn off all the noise and you truly just get to work on something important, it doesn't take hours to do. It
Right. Yeah.
takes like a half hour.
Right.
The reason that things take weeks to get accomplished is because you spend 5 minutes on it and then someone knocks on your door and says, hey doc, do you
Right.
have a minute? Or you spend 10 minutes on it and then you get tempted to go check email. Or you spend 5 minutes on it. And scientists have a term for this. It's called multitasking, which is a fallacy, and you end up having what they call attention residue. So you're in flow state, you're focused on this, and then someone knocks on your door, which is a whole nother conversation. You shouldn't be doing your deep work in the office. Go to a library, go to Starbucks, go somewhere. So you like get your mind off of this, and then you're focused on this, and it literally takes 10, 15 minutes to get back into a flow state to do what you were doing. Next thing you know, you're 2 hours of
Right.
multitasking and you haven't gotten anything done. So that's what I encourage people to do through CEO time. I'm actually just writing a blog post on this and coming up with checklists for people because it's a legitimate question. It's one that people ask all the time. But um,
I love it. I love
I,
that you position it that way. In a joking way, it made me think of like when you were in college and you went to the gym, you'd be there for 2 hours, but sometimes put in only 20 minutes of working out because you talk to your friends or someone stop you. Now, there's probably a lot of value to the networking at back then, but like this is like if you went to the gym and you constantly checked your phone, it would take you 2 hours to do a 25-minute workout. And now it's become much more popular to go in and do 30 minutes. And I actually am going to challenge myself to do this more. I have the same problem. And I think what you've shared is you can't do it in a place where people can get to you, right? It's like
100%.
once they see you, they get to you, right? Like you can't.
And that's always the complaint I get. Like, but I'm so needed. And again, this is something that until you do it, you don't realize the value. I'm like, okay, I get it. You're needed. You're super important, right? I'm telling you right now, go to the library for an hour and a half, get your deep work done, and then when you come to the office, just be present. Like, don't be trying to work on your computer, and then when someone comes in and says they need help, be like, "Just give me a second." Like I got to finish it. Like be like so. Now you've done all of that, and you've done it efficiently because you weren't bothered. So now you can come to work, and I joke around like I'm walking up and down the halls, shaking hands and kissing babies. Like I'm here. Who has anything?
Yes,
I want to
I
talk
love
to you,
that.
right?
And that must be actually
Versus
really
like,
enjoyable to you, right? It's enjoyable to basically have that freedom of walking around your business and where the people that you care about. And then you have these opportunities to have these unscripted interactions that are the joy of that, right? Where you're not on your phone trying to get out that one email to sign a lease or do that. So I love that. Well, Jason, this is to wrap up. Like, remember the Bizarro episodes in Seinfeld? This is kind of like Bizarro podcast. The guest interviewed the podcaster. It either went great and everyone's going to demand it more, or they're going to say, just make it this one episode. But I'm very grateful you let me do this because I really enjoyed it. I don't get a chance to kind of, to use the word, unpack all the things you do. So I appreciate you let me do this on your podcast.
no, it was fun. I appreciate it, and you're right. Like this will either land really well or it'll land like a ton of bricks. And either way, I enjoyed the last hour.
Yeah, I did too. The listeners will tell us. Thanks so much.
All right, see you, brother.
Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. You have a choice today. Choose to be a lighthouse. Lighthouses are powerful and steadfast. They are beacons of light for others to reference when life gets turbulent. Go out into the world today and become a lighthouse for someone. Give more than you get. True joy comes from serving others. Start today. I'm Jason Tanoory, your host. Thank you for listening to the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. For more information, podcast show notes, or links to anything that we have discussed today, please check out our website, thedentallighthouse.com. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to get on the show, please email us at podcast@thedentallighthouse.com.